This video is sponsored by Surfshark. On November 17th, Variety, the main industry publication, did a feature story on a study conducted by Fandom. This study breaks down the total fan base into subcategories based on descending orders of fan intensity, and of the main findings, the one highlighted by Variety is that Marvel fans in particular are showing signs of franchise fatigue. That may be a shocking revelation to Hollywood, but that is but the most palatable reading of the data and what Variety deems safe for print. In reality, that's but the tip of the iceberg, which should give Hollywood in general, and Disney in particular, cause for pause. Because inside the data is revealed not just how lucrative brands like Marvel and Star Wars have the potential to be, but how, in their quest to appeal to modern audiences, Disney are far along in the process of utterly destroying these brands. In this video, we'll break down the published findings of this study, what strengths and benefits it assigns to Marvel and DC in particular, and finally, and most importantly, use the data to demonstrate how Disney are in the process of killing the proverbial golden goose. By the time we get to the end, you may feel like canceling your Disney Plus subscription in sheer frustration and take to the high seas for your next Marvel fix. But to be clear, neither Midnight's Edge nor our sponsors condone piracy, even if the powers that be at Marvel and Disney are botching it big time. Not only is piracy wrong, but you would be exposing yourself to endless spyware, tracking software, and other malware out there on the high seas. And that's on top of all of the data that's stolen from you during all of your regular browsing and sold to third parties. Have you noticed all the spam and spam mails you're getting? They got your email from those third parties. That's how that happens. There's a fix for all that though. To protect yourself, you need to protect your data, and a good way of doing that is through a VPN, such as the one delivered by this channel's sponsor, Surfshark. A VPN, or virtual private network, is a privacy protection tool which guarantees instant online safety and encrypts all data sent via the internet, thereby protecting your data and you. But there's more. Surfshark allows you to bypass geo-blocking restrictions by changing the country you access the internet from, which gives some great advantages when it comes to streaming. For instance, you can access 15 different Netflix libraries, all with a different selection of movies and TV series, simply by changing your virtual location. Which is easy because Surfshark has servers in more than 100 countries around the world. Outside of the US, Star, the international version of Hulu, comes bundled with Disney+. If you're in the US and change your location to, say, the UK, well then you just might get that too. That's pretty good, but it gets even better. If you type in the code MIDNIGHT when ordering, that triggers an exclusive offer in which you now get a time-limited Black Friday offer of 85% off the normal list price, plus 3 extra months for free. Furthermore, Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. Do check out the link in the description below for further details and to order. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's begin by exploring the main findings. Fandom, the brainchild of Wikipedia co-founder Jimmy Wales, started out as the home of fan wikis, but under new ownership, the company has grown significantly as of late, having acquired GameSpot, Metacritic, TV Guide, Game FAQs, Giant Bomb, Cord Cutters News, and Comic Vine only last month. Fandom, the company then, conducted a study across all of fandom, as it were, drawing on 5,000 entertainment and gaming fans between the ages of 13 and 54 years, as well as proprietary insights from Fandom's online platform and wikis, though what is meant by this is unclear. Based on this, however, they were able to distinguish between 4 distinct segments of the audience based on descending orders of fan intensity, which they then named and described the main attributes of. The most intense, the most hardcore of fans are the advocates. They are the core fan base, described as deeply invested in the IP, so much so that it's part of who they are. They are most likely to watch content within the first days of its release. Some franchises with a high number of advocates include Marvel, Rick and Morty, Harry Potter, DC, Star Wars, and Stranger Things. Here it should be emphasized that the number of advocates is ultimately what decides how big and how profitable a brand or franchise has the potential to become. They are the ones who drive a brand, who buy the merchandise, who pass it on to their children and everything else. These are the kind of fans any brand needs to have if it's to survive, especially in the long term. Still, fans, though not quite as intense, are the intentionalists. These fans, which on average make up the largest segment of a franchise fan base, are more discerning, influenced by marketing and strong reviews, storytelling themes, and actors and filmmakers behind the projects. They'll most likely watch within the first 2 weeks. Franchises with a high number of intentionalists include The Sex Lives of College Girls, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, The Handmaid's Tale, Game of Thrones, and Only Murders in the Building. These two groups then, the advocates and the intentionalists, are what you traditionally would consider the fans, the built-in audience, the ones who generate hype, who drive repeat viewings, and who make out the prime spreaders of word of mouth and buzz. The number of these fans is what makes what was niche mainstream. This is Marvel's strength, as 66% of those surveyed fall into the advocates and intentionalist categories, which is why Marvel is the biggest entertainment brand on the planet. For DC, the corresponding number is just slightly lower, 61%, which is why David Zaslav is all in on DC. He recognizes that it's just about the only brand in the world that can rival Marvel for the top spot. Continuing the exploration of the four groups of fans in fandom, we are now leaving behind the domain of fans proper and entering the realm of the casuals as we explore the culturalists. They are heavily influenced by the buzz surrounding a popular release and see watching as an opportunity to connect with friends and family as well as the larger cultural conversation. In other words, without the advocates and intentionalists, there will be no culturalists, as these will only go where the fans have already cleared the way and put out the proverbial red carpet. They'll most likely watch within the first month. Franchises with a high number of culturalists include Chicago Fire, Ted Lasso, True Detective, The Challenge, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And finally, they are the ones who really don't care, namely the flirts. As the name implies, these are the dabblers, who are most interested in entertainment they can come in and out of, and will allow them to find common ground with others around them. They'll most likely watch when they have the time. Franchises with a large number of flirts include a large number of legacy shows like The Office, SpongeBob SquarePants, Gilmore Girls, South Park, and Friends, as well as reality shows like The Bachelor and Real Housewives. So what is the point of this distinction? Won't simply differentiating between fans and superfans do? Fandom CMO Stephanie Fried stated, "The words fan and superfan are used constantly to describe consumers of entertainment, but those terms are too generic for today's entertainment world. Fandoms are complex. Understanding the layers of fan identity and authentically connecting with them at the right time and right place will be key for marketers looking to maximize success across streaming, theatrical, and video game releases." This is arguably on point. I wholeheartedly agree. And if anything, it's something Hollywood should have recognized a long time ago. But before we get into why, let's get into the one finding that Variety had no issue making the centerpiece of their story. The reading that Variety pushed to the forefront is that Marvel fans are more inclined than DC fans to watch any Marvel project, and that 36% of Marvel fans feel fatigued from the constant stream of content served in theaters and on Disney+. By contrast, DC fans are more likely to consume film and TV about a specific superhero rather than the entire DC catalog, so only 20% of them are fatigued. There are two things to keep in mind with these numbers. One is that there are simply more advocates and intentionalists in the Marvel audience. The other is that since the beginning of Phase 4, everything coming from Marvel has been part of the interconnected MCU canon, where the hardcore fans will feel an obligation to watch everything. Where DC is concerned, most everything on the CW was interconnected, but not with anything else. The main movies were loosely connected except for the ones that weren't, like Joker and The Batman, while on HBO Max, Peacemaker was only connected to The Suicide Squad and only loosely to the other movies by way of that. In other words, and pushed to the extreme to make the point, fewer DC fans are fatigued because it's easier for them to choose their own adventure and ignore Batwoman. The only DC fans who are fatigued are the ones who felt obligated to watch everything up to and including Batwoman. By contrast, more Marvel fans are fatigued because more of them felt obligated to watch everything, and so had to endure being browbeaten by the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and lectured on how evil they are by She-Hulk. The data is the data, and the data is up for reading and interpretations. And some of those readings, even though they can be read out of the data, the industry simply will not admit to because it goes against everything they, first and foremost Disney, have been doing for the past half a decade. Let's look to Marvel to illustrate the point. Marvel is already the king of the hill where fandom is concerned. No one has more advocates that see the brand as part of their identity, and no one has more intentionalists that together with the advocates drive merchandise sales, drive repeat viewings, and most importantly, drive hype and buzz, which is what attracts the casuals, namely the culturalists and flirts. But this cannot be taken for granted. Though this is not referenced by Variety, there is a limit to how much abuse even the most hardcore fans will take, as we see with Star Wars. Not too long ago, the Star Wars fandom was in a similar place as the Marvel fandom. But due to sheer brand mismanagement, ticket sales were cut in half from the first to the last installment of the sequel trilogy. And as we have seen, Andor is an outright flop on Disney+. Judging by how Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has underperformed since its opening weekend, Marvel is in the process of offloading its own core audience, just like Star Wars already did. From day one of Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm, and from towards the end of Phase 3 of the MCU, someone decided that we've got the fans now and we no longer have to worry about pleasing them. Let's expand the audience by targeting our content to groups that are statistically less likely to watch our content. And so they did. The content was no longer aimed at the fans, meaning the advocates and the intentionalists who would spread the word and drive viewership among the culturalists and the flirts. Instead, the content itself was made specifically to appeal to the culturalists and the flirts. You know, the ones that really don't care about the brand in the first place. Case in point, the previously covered fan bait approach to marketing. That is, do stunt casting and promise wild infidelity to the source material, gaslight the fans, and hope the Twitter activists will somehow support the project, which they invariably never do. What Disney, Amazon, and really Hollywood at large for all intents and purposes have been doing the last few years is offload the hardcore built-in fans and replace them with casuals.
Not a great plan.
That is how you turn billion-dollar franchises into million-dollar franchises. Case in point, Wakanda Forever will not only fail to cross the billion-dollar threshold like the original Black Panther did, it may fall several $100 million short of it. Warner and DC were headed down that path too, being fully committed to the DCU, that is, until David Zaslav came in, fired the entire previous administration with extreme prejudice, canceled Batgirl, and then begun course-correcting from Black Adam onwards. How long until the rest of the industry realizes what David Zaslav saw right away? Namely, brands like DC and Marvel are golden gooses, but only so long as they maintain the goodwill of their own built-in hardcore audience. Will the powers that be in Disney and elsewhere be able to read this data the way they should be read, or will the truth just be too painful? Let us know in the comments, and before you go, remember that to help protect your data and bypass quarrelsome geo-blocking restrictions, you should get Surfshark VPN. Use our code MIDNIGHT to get 85% off plus 3 extra months for free. Link is in the description.